Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bhakti Fundamentals. We are back today with another question and answer session on the topic of our karma and whether or not we can change it. We each enter this world in different circumstances, and it's natural to wonder how much is already set. How much can I actually control or change in my life? While it's true that many aspects of life are beyond our control, the weather, what other people do, etc., we can control our own actions, how we respond to our good and bad karma in this lifetime, how we respond to the so-called weather of our life. There are 5 key truths or tattvas presented in the Bhagavad-gītā, and they are Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Kṛṣṇa, Jiva, the individual souls like you and me, Prakriti, or material nature, Kala, or time, and Karma, action and reaction. Now, of these 5 truths covered in the Gita, only karma, which refers to our activities, is temporary. Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Absolute Truth, is eternal. We, the living beings, are also eternal. And the material world and time move in actually repeating ongoing cycles of creation and destruction. However, karma, the binding web of our past material activities and their consequences, is not eternal. Our karma can be changed, but only when we take to spiritual life. Remember that Kṛṣṇa is so merciful and compassionate, and he very much wants us to awaken our eternal relationship with him. He doesn't want us to remain passive victims of our karma. What we learn from the Gita is that the system of karma exists ultimately to educate us. We're meant to learn from our past mistakes and advance spiritually. And when we begin to act on our relationship with Kṛṣṇa through the spiritual practices of Bhakti Yoga, then Kṛṣṇa himself personally helps us to transcend our material karma. He lovingly assures us of this at the end of the Gita in chapter 18, verse 66, when he says, "Just surrender unto me. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions or karmic reactions. Do not fear." Now, this of course suggests that we have agency or free will to decide how we act in this lifetime, and therefore that we shape our future destination. And of course, the Bhagavad-gītā supports this conclusion. We do indeed have free will to act, and we can and do shape our futures through our activities, whether we realize we are doing so or not. Some people think that because we receive birth into certain circumstances in this world, that everything is fated, that our destiny is entirely predetermined. Now, just how do people typically think of that word, destiny? If we look at the Cambridge English Dictionary, we learn that the word destiny has been used to refer to a few things, including the particular state of a person or thing in the future, considered as resulting from earlier events, and the force that some people think controls what happens in the future, and which cannot be influenced by people. So these definitions are how people commonly use the word destiny. However, let's next look at what destiny is according to the teachings of the Bhagavad-gītā, which is spoken by the Supreme himself. We learn in the Gita that destiny is not some sinister force controlling every aspect of our lives. Instead, what we sometimes call fate or destiny is revealed in the Gita to be the quota of happiness or distress that is in store for us in this lifetime as a consequence of our own karma, our own activities, whether from this life or previous ones. Essentially, we are the architects of our own fortunes or misfortunes. Let's break this down some. According to the Gita, we are free to act however we choose in this world. We do have free will. But free will doesn't absolve us of responsibility. In fact, the Gita emphasizes that every action we take carries a concomitant reaction. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Over time, we experience the happiness or distress that arises as a result of our past choices. Some people refer to this as fate or destiny, but Kṛṣṇa gives us a clearer understanding. In the Gita, he explains that karma is the cosmic system of justice, a perfectly precise mechanism that responds to the decisions we make and brings to us their appropriate consequences. In a nutshell, karma is the law of action and reaction, and before spiritual life, we are always participating in it, whether we realize it or not. But this raises an important question. Why would Kṛṣṇa speak the Gita if we were powerless to change our karma? If we were simply meant to go through life after life, helplessly receiving the results of our past actions? Well, it turns out Kṛṣṇa did not deliver the Gita merely to convince Arjuna to take action and participate in the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna was going to act one way or another. Even refusing to participate on his part would have been a choice. And every choice is an action with its own consequences. Kṛṣṇa's true aim in speaking the Gita was to transform Arjuna's motive for action, to elevate Arjuna's consciousness from material to spiritual. He wanted Arjuna to act not out of fear, material attachment, or personal gain, but as an offering to him, the Supreme Person. In a similar way, we are all bound to act in this world in one way or another. The real question is, for whom are we acting? And in what consciousness? The Gita's transformative message is this: we can change our karma, not by stopping action, but by changing the consciousness and desire behind our actions from material to spiritual. We can actually change our material destiny or karma through spiritual practices. We do have free will within the scope of our overarching destiny or karmic situation. Recall from our previous class on the topic of karma that prarabdha karma is karma that is actively fructifying, that is already manifesting in our lives presently. This type of karma includes things like the bodies we're in, our body's complexion, gender, etc., the families and the country that we take birth in. This form of karma is the fully manifested result of our previous actions. We can't really change it now. However, bija karma refers to the seedling stage of karma, and this is karma that has not yet yielded its concomitant results. Unlike prarabdha karma, bija karma can be alleviated or eliminated through spiritual practices or sadhana. And this is because spirit is more powerful than matter. Matter is known in Sanskrit as prakriti. The spirit soul, what we actually are, each of us is a unique individual soul, is by nature para prakriti, transcendental to matter. And importantly, this means that karma can only affect us materially. Our karma affects our material situation from lifetime to lifetime. When we falsely identify with matter, thinking that we are our material bodies and acting on that platform, then the laws of the material world, including karma, apply to us, affecting our lifetimes in the material world. However, if we act spiritually, then we have the power to change our material situation. Our starting point in this life is shaped by our past actions and the accumulated karma we carry into our current existence, but how we respond to our present situation is entirely within our control. Let's take a moment to use an analogy. Think of the material body as a vehicle, a car we've been given for this lifetime. We may not have consciously chosen the exact make or model, but we do choose how we drive it. We can drive recklessly, ignoring the consequences of our actions and endangering ourselves and others, or we can learn the rules of the road and drive with care, responsibility, and purpose. In the same way, we can go through life blindly, never seeking out spiritual knowledge, never asking who we are, why we're here, or how this world truly works. Or we can choose to educate ourselves spiritually, learn the deeper laws of material life, karma, and the modes of material nature, and then rise above them. Kṛṣṇa speaks the Bhagavad-gītā for exactly this reason, to teach us how the material world operates, and then to show us how to transcend it through the spiritual knowledge he lovingly provides. This is just like when we board an airplane and the flight takes off. At that point, we can't change the plane, the seat, or the destination mid-flight. We're committed to that particular journey, but still we have choices. We can choose how we spend our time on the plane. Some people read, others sleep, some distract themselves with movies or alcohol. But a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga might use that time to chant the Hare Kṛṣṇa Maha Mantra, or read a spiritual book like the Bhagavad-gītā, or reflect on their various services. That power to choose, our free will, is what makes spiritual life possible for us. Material actions, those performed with bodily identification and worldly attachment, destine us for future material births in this temporary material world. As Kṛṣṇa explains in the Bhagavad-gītā, action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruit of activities. By contrast, spiritual actions, those performed in devotional service to the Supreme, lead us to a spiritual destination, and that spiritual destination is permanent. Kṛṣṇa says in the Gita, "After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion, or bhakti yogis, never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection." This verse is very hopeful, because it describes what we have been discussing all along, that through spiritual life we can mold our future such that we exit this material world and therefore transcend its stringent laws. The more we engage in material actions, the more our consciousness becomes covered by material desires. And the more materially covered our consciousness is, the more we continue to act materially. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle, binding us more and more tightly to the laws of material nature, including karma. Ironically, the more we chase so-called freedom through material life, by choosing to act materially, the less actual freedom we have. It's like a drug user. At first, they freely choose to take the drug. But over time, that choice turns into compulsion as their body becomes dependent. What was once freedom becomes a prison. By contrast, spiritual actions free us, the real us, the jiva or soul, from matter and material consciousness, and destine us for a spiritual destination. To conclude today's session, let's hear from Srila Prabhupada, who beautifully summarizes the essence of everything we've discussed. He says in one of his Bhagavad-gītā classes, "The body is made according to our past karma, and that is called destiny. Your happiness and distress, according to the body, is already settled up. It is not possible by natural materialistic way to improve it. It is already settled up." However, there is hope. In a conversation he had, Srila Prabhupada said the following on the topic of destiny. Our destiny can be changed by Kṛṣṇa when we are Kṛṣṇa conscious. That we cannot do, but Kṛṣṇa will. Kṛṣṇa says, "Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami." I shall give you protection. So that change takes place for my protection by Kṛṣṇa. The devotee is under the direct control of Kṛṣṇa. So there we have it. When we act spiritually, Kṛṣṇa intervenes in our lives, modifying what would have otherwise been written in our karmic future. Spiritual action is like a divine loophole. It allows us to bypass the binding laws of matter and aim instead for a spiritual destination. Through Bhakti Yoga, we learn how to purify practically everything in our lives for use and service to Kṛṣṇa. And in doing so, we become transcendental to the laws of the material world. It's like flying a plane instead of driving a car. Planes aren't bound by red lights or road rules. In the same way, Bhakti Yoga lifts us above the laws of material karma. Through practices like chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on screen, or studying the Gita, or offering our daily actions to Kṛṣṇa, we directly connect with the Supreme. And when Kṛṣṇa enters our life, material karma no longer has the final say. The immediate purpose behind acquiring spiritual knowledge is to be able to act on that spiritual knowledge in order to exit the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth and death in this material world. Of course, eventually we come to see that the ultimate goal in Bhakti Yoga is not merely liberation from this material world, but pure, selfless love for the Supreme, or Kṛṣṇa. Liberation from matter is simply a side effect of awakening our love for the Supreme. But what we'll find as we practice Bhakti Yoga is that the spiritual knowledge we gain is only complete when it's practically applied in our lives. In other words, the fruit of spiritual knowledge is the power to discern, the ability to understand what truly benefits us, not just in the short term, but in the long term, in terms of our eternal spiritual welfare. So let's choose wisely. Let's opt out of karma and opt into Kṛṣṇa. So that's all we have for today on the topic of changing our karma. Please let us know your thoughts on the class and any questions you have that we might answer in follow-up sessions. In the meantime, thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time on Bhakti Fundamentals.